is such a beautiful gift, I think. So this class, we slow down just a little bit more than the other classes. And it gives us this opportunity to really pay attention to how we're doing. We're going to kind of do a little bit of a well-rounded situation today, but a little focus on the hamstrings. And one of the things, I want to say, it's pretty common for people to have history of a hamstring tear of some kind in their bodies. And when that happens, sometimes the scar tissue that develops from it can kind of be a niggle that just can haunt you for the rest of your days. And it's really important to not overstretch. So if you've ever had a history of overdoing the hamstrings, you know that feeling of it being a little too much and getting some pain or tenderness at the attachment site at your sit bones. So when we work towards some forward folding today, couple things to focus on. One is to bend your knees as much as you need to so that you take away the tug on the attachment sites. Really, any muscle group that we're stretching, we don't want to feel it at the ends. We want to feel the stretch in the middle, in the belly of the muscle. So try to sense that as much as you can. And then the other thing, when we're bending forward, it's not just the hamstrings that have to open. It's the way we have to move our pelvis and the whole back line of the body as well. And I know you guys, you've heard me say this before, but I'm going to say it again, that when we're bending forward, if we bend with our back rounded and we push our pelvis back and our femur bones back, we don't get very far. And sometimes this can be protective of tight hamstring attachments. It can be the way we try to protect from overdoing the stretch on our hamstrings. But instead, I would much rather you tip the pelvis and bend the knees to create that softness at the attachment sites instead of rounding the back to do so. So if there's something that has to give for your hamstrings, let it be your knees that give. And this will soften the whole channel, but still allow you to turn the pelvis so the whole back line of your body can stretch. So this can be found in standing, in sitting, in lying down. There's all the different positions that we can stretch our hamstrings. This can be found. So let's try to just listen to that sensation in the body where we're not overdoing it, okay? All right, so sit up straight and tall and close your eyes for a moment and come into how you feel, what's happening in your body, in your mind, in your spirit today. Come into the breath. Let the shoulders drop down away from the ears. Close the eyes. Come into a state of ease. It's so easy to get caught up in the go, go, go. And important for us to take some time for the rest and rejuvenation to come. When we slow down in our practice, this is a gift. Feel your eyes melt. Align your spine and notice where you are in space. Do you tend to lean forward? Do you tend to slouch back? Where is the spine? And also, where is the angle of your pelvis? Do you tend to tip deep forward and arch the back? Do you tend to round the spine? To see where the angles of your pelvis are that contributes to what's happening in your spine. So notice and see if you can cultivate a neutral pelvis where the pelvis is a steady bowl, not tipping to the left or to the right or to the front or the back. Can you imagine that pelvic bowl being a grounding force like roots of your tree, being broad and stable, grounded? And from that place, lifting the spine. Deep breaths here. What within you can relax and find ease? Is there places within you that are tense or kind of vibrating high? Do you have any anxiety? See what you can do to let your breath be a healing balm, like a blanket over the body. All right, place the hands together at the heart and bow in. All right, let's release the hands and come onto our back. All right, so start as we always do. Just relax for a moment. Let the feeling of surrender happen. You know, when you get down onto the floor, things shift. So just notice the shifting, what's happening in your spine, in the way your bones are orienting to gravity and to the earth. And just allow yourself to drop in. And then as you're ready, stretch the arms overhead and lengthen right side, left side, whatever side feels good you can start with. And just go back and forth, stretching one heel away, stretching one arm away. Just finding that little arch that happens in the back when your arms are overhead. If your arms are overhead, maybe they're not. And then bring the knees into the chest and give yourself a little hug and rock. So swaying from side to side. And now let's bring your knees away from each other and back in. And just swinging them to and fro. Just lubricating the hip joints a little bit. And then keep the knees together and circle the knees one direction. And circle the knees another direction. Okay, right knee into the chest, left leg is long on the floor. Roll around your ankles, wiggle through your toes. Just feel some range of motion. Just get comfortable slowing down and paying attention to the small places in the body. Stay with the breath. And then change sides. Left knee into the chest, right leg extends on the floor. And again, move the toes, move the feet around. Just see what the bones of your feet feel like today. You know, if you're having trouble with your feet, the more often through the day you can take your shoes off and move things around, the more space you'll get between those bones. And then release the legs down onto the floor. Let's take our strap, have it close by, and then go ahead and grab it, put it on the right foot, wrap it around the sole of the foot, and lift your legs straight up in the air. Your left foot can be bent, or left knee can be bent, left foot on the floor. Move your right hip away from the shoulder, extending through the spine. Relax the shoulders down. So try not to reach up high toward the strap where your shoulders and neck get tense. Drop them down a bit so that everything's relaxed in the upper body. Spread out the bones of your feet now. So feel all the bones of your feet spread. Lift the heel. And just see what it feels like to move the femur bone away from the shoulder. And notice what happens in your back. Let that go and feel your right hip hike up toward your right shoulder. Notice what happens in your hip joint and in your spine. And then move the femur bone away from your shoulder and notice what happens in the hip bone and spine. Soften the knee. So try not to push the knee back. And when you do, if you do push that knee back, notice the attachments of the hamstrings behind your knee. See if there's a tug there. And then melt the knee a little bit. Let it be softer, so that you can loosen up that tug and instead stretch into the belly of the hamstring. So lift the foot, drop the hip, move the hip away from the shoulder, and spread out the hamstring muscles. There's 3 hamstrings, and let's come into the innermost to find a stretch there. So wrap the strap around your right foot. We're going to open up the right leg out to the side. And feel free to keep the left knee bent or straighten the left leg on the floor, whatever is working for you for today. Just enjoy. So obviously you're going to get into the adductors, the inner thigh muscles, but just notice the inner hamstring, the innermost hamstring on the back of your leg. What does it feel like at your sit bones? Can you start to notice if there's any taut tension right at the attachments? What can you do to create the belly of the muscle having that feeling instead. And then inhale, lift that leg straight up in the air. If your left leg was bent, straighten it now, and we're going to cross the right leg over toward the left. Take your right hand in the hip crease and press the thigh away. Extend the spine a little bit longer, press through the big toe and the inner heel. And just notice if you can sense the outer hamstring. Of course, you're going to feel this in your IT band and your hip. See if you can sense the outer hamstring as well. Once again, the knee is not hyperextended. You can have a straight leg with a soft knee. All right, then bring that leg back up in the air. One more time, extending the spine. And then we're going to release 2 legs down onto the ground. Starfish, open your body. Take a deep inhale. And as you exhale, knees to your chest, chin up. One more time, open things. Exhale. Close things up. 2 feet long on the floor. Just notice if there's still a difference between your 2 sides. Does your right side feel just a little bit longer? Do you feel like your right heel is further away from your pelvis than your left? So let's start to gather that same sensation in the left. So put the strap around your left arch. You can bend your right knee, or you can put your right foot down. You can put your whole right leg down on the ground. So decide how you want to feel. Then stretch up through the foot, root down through the hip, flex the toes. Try not to hyperextend the knee. So I have just a little bit of a bend in that knee. Extend the spine. As your hip moves away from the shoulder and roots down toward the earth, what's happening in your spine? And if you want, you can play with doing the opposite. Let the hip pop up and toward the shoulder and up toward the sky. And just notice the spine, what's happening. And then repeat it. Hip away from the shoulder, hip down into the earth, foot up. Just notice the alignment that happens, the extension through your spine, the sense of space. I hope you feel a sense of space. Spread out the feet, both of them. Can you feel the width of your hamstrings? Can you feel that you have 3? All right, we're going to open up the left leg to the left. So take the strap in the left hand. Once again, the right leg can be bent with the foot on the floor. You can let your knee fall out to the side, or your leg can be straight. So feel the adductors, your inner thigh muscles stretch, but also feel that inner hamstring. This is one where it often can kind of tug on that attachment site. So a little micro bend in the knee can take that sensation away sometimes. Stabilize through the right side of the body. Then go ahead and lift that leg straight up in the air. Root the thigh bone. And then let's cross over to the right. You can put your left hand in the hip crease, press it away if you want. Soften the knee again. So it's easy to just push the knee back. See if you can have a little micro bend in the knee. Extend the whole leg from your heel to your hip. Can you feel the outer hamstring stretch, or is it just your outer hip you're feeling? So try to sense that your hamstrings are broad. It's not always so easy to isolate out the 3 separate hamstring muscles. So just do your best to sense into there and feel. All right, and then lift that leg back up in the air. We're going to take 2 feet into the strap now. I promise we'll get off the floor at some point. All right, so strap those feet in, bend your knees some, and then straighten your legs. And just go back and forth, a little bit of straightening, a little bit of bending. And when you come into straight legs, experiment, put your knees into hyperextension and just feel what that feels like so you know where not to go. And then back away from that so that your legs, you might even feel like they're bent a little bit when actually they are pretty straight, or you might have a little bit deeper of a bend in there. So find what's comfortable for your pelvis so that you can feel the pelvis move. So even though we are in a static pose on the floor, our spine and our pelvis are on the ground. When you stretch your legs straight, can you feel the difference in your spine versus when you bend your knees. There's a lot more pliability in the spine with the knees bent. Okay, let's unwind the legs. Take your feet on the floor a little wider than your hips, and let's just begin to windshield wiper your knees. So you can move this action slow or fast, whatever feels really good in your body. All right, we're going to roll over onto our side and come up onto our hands and our knees. So have a good posture, starting on all fours, and start moving your body into some cat-cows. Okay, so arching the back and rounding the spine, taking your time to notice your vertebrae, what's feeling right, what's feeling good. Is there any place that you need to take extra care? Are your knees in a comfortable place? Do you want to take them further or closer to each other? How's your back? All right, and then come to a flat back for a moment, and let's just play with the anterior and posterior tilting of the pelvis. So lift and widen the sit bones. See if you can let the attachments of your hamstrings stretch out there. And then exhale, engage your hamstrings, pull your tailbone toward the floor, and round up the spine. Can you feel the hamstrings engage here? So actively engage them. Just see the gripping that can happen, and then release that and lift and widen the sit bones here. Chest up. Exhale and round the spine up. There's no, try to think less about musts and rights and wrongs, and think more about what feels good. Can you determine for yourself what feels good in the body? So start to move around any way you want to move around. No two bodies are built the same. So, a one-size-fits-all approach to your yoga practice when it comes to alignment cues, we can have principles of movement, guidance of movement, but the rules really need to be your own. You need to see what today holds, so trust yourself, listen inside. The more you cultivate that inner sensing, the better you will be at trusting what is right in this moment for your body position in your practice. Okay, so let's go ahead and come to a flat back and stretch back towards child's pose. Feel free to roll around your wrists, wiggle your hands, get your wrists freed up if they're tense. Lengthen through your spine. Now our hamstrings are nice and soft, so we can open up the back body with a lot of ease. So breathe deeply into the spine. And let's walk our hands over to the left side of the mat, feeling a sense of ease as you drop your forehead, relax. Deep breath into the side of your body, enjoy. And we'll walk the hands over other direction, lengthening here. Soft skull, soft eyes, melt the brain. Deepen the breath. And then come back up onto all fours. Let's find our twist. Inhale, reach the arm up. And remember, I taught this last week, but if going out to the side is difficult for your shoulder, try coming forward and then up, and you might find a different trajectory of movement that's better for your shoulder. So experiment with what feels good. Move the shoulders away from the ears. Notice if your hips push off to the side, keep them aligned as best as you can. Deep breaths. Inhale, reach that arm back up. Place the hand down onto the ground. Arm up. Slide that shoulder down, gaze toward the floor. Deep breath in, deep breath away. All right, and inhale, reaching the arm to the sky. Place the hand down onto the ground. Curl the toes under. Before you come up into dog pose, just bring your palms forward again, and then stretch back with your toes curled under. Just let the bottom of your feet open to whatever place is comfortable or borderline comfortable for them. Don't go too far, but just let the bottom of the feet stretch. You have this fascial line from the bottom of your feet, up the back of the calves, the hamstrings, across the sacrum, up the spine, the neck, and over the head, all the way to your eyebrows. There's this fascial connection here. So let's just open up each piece of it. Okay, now let's come to dog pose. Feel free to shake out your toes, extend through the spine, and let's start being very gentle here. So bend one knee, bend the other knee, just sway back and forth. You can let the calves open slowly. Give them some juice as you bend and straighten. And then after a few movements, just see what it feels like to open up the legs. So stretch and lift and widen the sit bones. Soften the knees. Remember to have that little bend in the knees so you're not over tugging and causing the pelvis to tilt the wrong way. So lift the pelvis into an anterior tilt. That means the sit bones lift, the tailbone lifts, the inner thighs roll back, the sit bones widen. Feel the space in your spine when you do this. Feel free to bend your knees as much as you want. Spread out the bones of the feet. Stretch your heels back toward the wall behind you and down. Lift the sit bones up and wide. And then walk your feet forward and come into a forward fold. So the knees are deeply bent here. Feel free to wag the tail, roll around in your shoulders or your neck. Inhale for a halfway lift. You can hold blocks or your legs or the floor. Exhale and melt back down. Push off your feet, rise up. Okay, come all the way up to stand. Okay, reaching the arms up to the sky, open the breath. And exhale, stand in Tadasana. Close your eyes for a moment and feel where you like to land in your feet. Are you a lefty or a righty? Do you tend to sink into your toes? Do you tend to hang out in your heels? Where's your tendency of where you like to be in your feet? And once you find that, see if you can come to a neutral place where everything's balanced. And soften the knees a little bit. So the hamstrings will work. You're not totally passive. Passive would be like kind of tipping the pelvis way forward. So there is a little bit of a lift of the pubic bone, a little bit of activity in the hamstrings, but not enough where we're gripping and squeezing our butt cheeks and pushing our pelvis forward. So find just a teeny toning in the hamstrings. Lift your spine. Okay. Finding the breath. Inhale, reaching the arms up, and let's come to a chair. So you can have your feet close, you can have your feet apart, you can put a block in between your legs if you want, and don't come very far down, so just a little bit, and start to feel the hamstrings. You can even put your hands back there on your hamstrings and feel them kick in, okay, where they attach at your sit bones. See if you can feel the centering of your effort in the belly of your muscles. Extend the spine. Breathe deeply. You can put your arms wherever you want them to be. Root into the feet. The weight moves a little deeper into the heels. Okay. And rise up. Exhale and fold forward. If you have a block, you can take it out. Feel the sit bones widen again. Knees bend as much as you want. Halfway lift. Exhale and melt back down. Let's come onto all fours one more time. Bring your hands onto the ground. And then let's come into all fours, straight back. Stretch your left leg straight back behind you. So of course your glutes will work too, but share in the burden. Glutes and hamstrings working together. Inner spiral that leg in the air. Engage your core. Pulse your leg a few times. So let's just find the hamstrings working. Okay. And then bring your knee into your chest and stretch the leg out. Knee into your chest, stretch the legs. Feel the work as you extend. The hamstrings are extenders, so feel them extending that leg. And then place that knee down onto the ground. Feel free to shake out your wrists. You can always put forearms on blocks too if your wrists are unhappy. Stretch your other leg straight back behind you, extending through your spine. Engage through your glutes, your hamstrings, and your core. Find that sense of stability as best as you can. Feel the growth of the spine. Right, square the hips, inner spiral that leg. Find the breath. And then we're going to bring knee to nose. Inhale, bring it back. Exhale, bring it in. And you can move slow or fast, however you like to be. Notice the lever of your hamstrings. These are big, strong muscles in our body. So let's learn to use them wisely instead of, gripping them unconsciously. And then go ahead and rest. Come back to child's pose for a moment, or any variation thereof. Just let your legs rest for a breath. We're going to come back into that position and do something different. Okay, let's come up onto all fours. Okay. Take the left leg back again. This time we're going to bend our knee. So our knee is bent and our foot is up toward the ceiling. Square the hips and just try to make some footprints on the ceiling. Now, of course, your glutes are going to be working hard for this, but let your hamstrings share in that journey. Your gluteus maximus and your hamstrings work together to extend the legs. So feel them work in harmony, and then go ahead and relax that down. Okay, let's change sides. Take your right leg straight back, and then when you're ready, bend your knee. Your foot is up in the air. Square hips. Stabilize your core. Drop your shoulders away from the ears. Extend the spine. Don't forget about the rest of your body, and start to try to make footprints on the ceiling. Feel your hamstrings engage. Try not to overdo. Do you tend to want to turn the knee out or in? Does one hamstring group work faster or better than another? Great. And then relax. Go ahead and stretch back to child's pose. Take your arms down at your sides. Let your legs rest for a moment. All right, let's go ahead and come on up to dog pose. Stretch through your legs here. Feel the lift of the sit bones, the width. You're stretching your glutes, you're stretching your hamstrings, extending the spine. Inhale, lift that right leg up in the air. Exhale and bring your foot forward to a lunge. Extend the spine. Find your breath here. Breathing deeply. So as you push your front foot in the floor, can you feel your hamstring? Put your hand on your hamstring. Put it underneath your thigh. And notice when you pull your heels toward your feet toward each other and push your front foot into the floor, can you feel that hamstring engage? And when you come up, can you still feel it engage? So keep your hand under there so you can feel your muscle. Extend and open up through the spine. Reach the arms upward if it feels good. Find your breath. Deep breath in, deep breath away. And then exhale, place your hands on blocks. You can walk your back foot in a little bit more if that feels comfortable for you. We're going to bend and straighten the front leg like we often do. So bending the front knee and then straightening the front knee. Remember, stay in the range of motion that's comfortable for your body. Feel the hamstrings stretch, relax your chin in toward your chest. Next time we get to the straight leg version, even if you're not anywhere near straight, hang out there. Chin toward chest, anterior tip the tilt the pelvis. See if you can let the pubic bone pass through the inner thighs, the sit bones widen. Okay, walk your back foot forward. Put a block between your thighs if you want it. One more time into a chair. You can keep your hands on your thighs, at your heart, out, up, anywhere that feels really good for you. Can you feel the hamstrings working here? Obviously your quads are too. There's a lot of muscles working here. When you're steady and not moving, this sense of isometric contraction is really profound for the body. A lot working in harmony together. Deep breaths. And then let's stand up straight. Exhale and fold forward. Take the block out of there. Step your right foot back. Your left foot's forward. Coming into a lunge. Remember, you can always put your back knee on the ground. There's ways to modify everything in yoga. Lift your heart. All right. Can you feel your hamstring on that front leg? Push your heel down into the ground. Drag it back a little bit. Help things kick in. Find your way up. You can have your hands on your hips. You can have your hands at your heart. You can have your arms up. Remember, your lunge can be backed away a little bit and not be as deep. It can be steady. Your back knee can be on the floor. Soften the back knee a little bit. This might help you turn the pelvis and not go too deeply into an arch in the back. Find your way. Push your front foot into the floor. Feel the hamstrings kick in on that front leg. All right, and then exhale and release the hands. Walk your back foot in if you want. It doesn't have to go very far. And let's start bending and straightening through your front leg. Square hips, relax your head. Let's come to a straight leg and stay there, or straight-ish leg and stay there. Feel the sit bones widen, the inner spiral. Hug your front heel down into the ground and draw it back. And feel this, how this kicks in the hamstring muscle itself. So you're not just stretching it without a flex embedded within the stretch. This is very healthy for the muscle fibers. All right, let's go ahead and climb your back foot forward. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale, might be the last chair. Put your block, your thighs, or block between your thighs if you want. You don't have to. This is very good. Using block is very good to help stabilize the knees. So if you have a wonky knee in any way, this is a great way to do chair pose so you can feel all the strength without feeling like your knee is taking the brunt of a lunge. Finding the breath. Put your arms where you want them. You can be in less of the depth of your squat or really deep in your squat. Just find your way. Push your heels down. Feel your hamstrings. Can you feel that your hamstrings might want your pelvis to tuck? Okay, so you might get the sensation that you want to do this. Can you still anterior tilt the pelvis and engage the hamstrings at the same time? And then stand up straight and tall. Deep breath, open the heart, and release your hands. Come back to a plank. Finding the breath. You can always put your knees down on the floor for a plank if your body needs some support. Hold steady here. Deep inhale. Full exhale. All right, let's come down to the ground. Take a deep breath in, cobra pose. Open the chest, exhale, and melt back down. Let's bring our toes to touch. Okay, so you can wiggle until you get your legs to become one, two become one. Inhale and lift your legs up. And just see what wants to kick in. You can keep your head resting down, finding the breath. Exhale and melt. Pick up your feet and rock left and right. All right, come back down again. Your arms can be down or up. You decide where you want the arms to be. We're going to lift everything up, and I want you to kick. You can do the arms too in opposition, or you can keep the arms straight and just kick the legs. All right, so feel the hamstrings do the work with the glutes. Engage through your core to stabilize, finding the breath. Try turning your toes out a little bit. Try turning your toes down. Notice the different hamstrings that tend to be dominant depending on your leg position. All right, exhale and release. Pick up your feet. Let the hamstrings relax and rock left and right. Feel free to turn your head from one side to the other. All right, let's go ahead and come back up onto all fours. That was a lot on your belly, so feel free to swirl around in your spine. And find your way back to child's pose. Let everything rest for a moment. Deep breath in, deep breath away. Come up into dog pose. Spread out the hands. Feel the hamstrings stretch. Inhale, lift your right leg up in the air. Exhale and bring that foot through however is comfortable for you. Shorten up your stance. Now, if you know, come on up to stand. If you know that you have a hamstring attachment that's a little cranky, one of the ways you can protect your hamstring when you're stretching is to flex it while you're stretching it. So in a posture like Parsvottanasana, where we're going to bring our hands down onto the blocks, you can press your heel down and draw it back. And we're going to practice this with our hands on our blocks before we do the full pose. So just notice when you are here, and if you need more height, stack your two blocks on top of each other. So press the heel down and drag it back and feel the hamstring kick in. So this is protective for the attachments if you have a history of a tear. Go ahead and come on up. Okay, and we're going to do the full pose here, which is a lot more work in the hamstrings. So you can interlace your hands behind your back. You can keep your hands on your hips. However you want to be in this pose. You know, traditionally your hands are like this behind your back and reverse namaste, but my body doesn't do that very well. So I usually grab onto my forearms. Okay, open the chest, spread open the collarbones, tip forward. So already there's so much work in your glutes and hamstrings. So press the heel down, draw it back, square the hips, find both the extension and the flexion. Soften the knee. Try not to push the knee into a hyperextended state. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. All right, and then push all the way back up. Reach the arms to the sky. Bring the back foot forward. Change sides. Second side, let's start with our hands down onto the blocks. Feel free to stack higher. So if you need one block under the other, this is helpful. Square the hips, inner spiral the thighs, soften the knees. Feel your yielding, root down, rise through your spine. Hug that heel down and drag it back a little bit. Feel the kicking in. What happens there when you do this? And then come on up. Interlace your arms the other way. So if you had one arm on top, switch. Open up the heads of the shoulders, extend the spine. When you're ready, tip forward. Okay, so find your roots. Feel the feet, soften the knees, extend the spine, engage your core, press your heel down and drag it back a little bit. Feel the work in your hamstring while it's stretching. Breathing deeply. And then come on up. Bring the arms to the sky. Take a deep breath. Exhale and release your hands to the blocks. Come into a halfway lift for a moment. And just let the hamstrings stretch. Lift and widen your sit bones. Try not to push your knees back. They can bend forward as much as you want. And I want you to turn sideways on your mat. Okay, so stretch into Pasrita so you can bring your body down toward the floor, torso coming toward the ground. Feel the inner attachments of your hamstrings now. Widen your sit bones. Try not to let your knees push back. Okay, then we're going to come on up. You can turn your feet just slightly out for this. And we're just going to go from one side to the other side. Now, there's a whole bunch of things that could get challenged by this. It's not just your hamstrings that we're working with. We're working with the cylinder of your thighs. So your inner thighs, your outer hips, your quads, your hamstrings, your glutes, your core. Everything's working together as you come into this pose. So if you have a knee that does not like to lunge, then go very high, just a little bit like this. And if you have a little bit more capacity, you can come a little lower and push off. And then come a little bit lower and push off. And especially in the push-off, feel the work of the hamstrings to extend that leg straight. Okay, can you use all your muscles? Can you let the hamstrings be supported by all the other muscle groups in your body? From one side to the other. And your arms can do all sorts of fun things. Whatever feels nice. All right, and then come into a goddess. Drop down, heels moving into the floor. Feel your heels turn the hamstring on. This is what, when you press your heels down, you're trying to extend your legs. So isometrically, when you don't let your legs go into extension, when you keep them bent, this still will engage the hamstrings well. Spin the feet, toes turn out, heels in, press through the balls of the toes and the heels, lift the spine, and then slowly straighten your legs up. Turn your heels forward one more time, come into Pasrita. Finding the breath. Deep inhale and a deep exhale. All right, spin back to the front of your mat, dog pose. Feel the tip of the pelvis, the lift of the sit bones. Okay. Last time into Uttanasana, bring your feet forward and fold in half. Bend your knees. Notice when you bend your knees, things soften at your sit bones and your pelvis can tilt. So finding the breath. All right, and then the inhale, and then exhale, and we're going to come all the way down to the floor. Okay. All right, so one of the ways that you can stretch your hamstrings well on the ground is by putting a blanket underneath your pelvis. This will automatically anterior tilt the pelvis. So if you have tight hamstrings, and when you sit with your legs straight, you tend to round your spine, having a little bit of support underneath your pelvis can tip the pelvis forward. So we're all going to bend our knees and grab your strap. Have your feet hip width apart, lift up through your spine, feel the tipping pelvis, and come into a forward fold with a long spine. And then when your torso brings itself to your knees, tuck your chin toward your chest. Okay, now straighten your legs a little bit more. If you struggle with your hamstrings, one of the things that you can also do is have another blanket underneath your knees so that you're automatically in a little bit of a bent knee position, kind of prevents you from hyperextending your knees. So you can experiment with different ways of accomplishing this if it feels good to you. Paschimottanasana, I find, is a very difficult pose. It tends to tweak my back if I do it incorrectly. So I don't know if that feels the same for you. The hamstrings are a big piece of this. So if you can, take this feet hip width apart. One of the tricks I have that I do in this pose is I take the strap behind my feet with the strap edges on the pinky toe side, and then I do a loop around each foot individually. So I cross over the front of my foot and round back again, and then I pull that way. And this way it takes I can still stretch my big toes away very easily instead of feeling like I'm inverting or everting my foot. Okay, so extend the spine up, and when you come forward, see if you can root the thigh bones down, extend the spine, and relax, tuck your chin. Root the thigh bones down, take the femur bones back in the hips. Don't go farther than your body says go. All right, let's come on out of there. Bring your knees to your chest at first, and then open up your feet into Baddha Konasana. Lean back a little bit. Let's just counter that a little tiny bit. Okay, and then staying up on the edge of your blanket, we're going to take a block or a blanket underneath your left knee and stretch your right leg straight. Now, if you need support underneath your knee again, like we just did, you can always take a rolled blanket or something underneath your knee so that you have some support to not make it go straight. And then we're going to take the strap around your foot. Okay, now you don't need all these props if you don't need all these props. So if you want to have your knee down instead of supported, if you don't need support underneath your knee, I'm just showing you all the possibilities to support yourself. Inhale, lift up through your spine. Exhale and come forward. Reach your heart. Try not to hyperextend your knee. Press the head of the thigh bone into the floor. without overdoing the knee. Extend your heart, tip the pelvis into an anterior tilt as best as you can. At the end, if you want to tuck your chin, try to do this without over rounding the spine. How is your breath? Come on up. Let's take the blanket underneath the other knee if you want to. All these props are just recommendations for support. So if your knee needs support or your hip, take support. If your other knee, just do what you need to do for protection of your joints. Wrap the strap around the foot, lift up through your spine, exhale, and come forward. Flex your toes, stretch the heel. And if you still need a little bit of that flex stretch, if you're feeling tuggish on your hamstring attachments, press your heel down and drag it toward you so that there's a little bit of engagement in the hamstrings. All right, breathe your way here. Feel free to tuck the chin a little bit. All right, now when you're ready, come on up. Come out of there. Come out, move all your props out of the way. Okay. Grab your block, just one block. Bring your knees toward your chest for a moment. Rock around a little bit. Okay. We're going to counter some of that forward bending with a supported bridge pose. So I want you to relax your hamstrings. Our hamstrings engage a lot when we're in bridge pose. So I want you to be on a block, either on the lower middle height, so that your hamstrings don't have to work so hard. And we just get to open the pelvis in a different way from the forward bending. All right, so come into the breath, rest here. Deep inhales, melt the exhales. Can you let your hamstrings kind of hang off the bone a little bit? Let your legs be pretty passive. Take the support of the block. Feel your breaths. Feel them entering into the belly, the symmetry across your pelvis. All right, let's go ahead and find our way out of this pose. So we're going to take the block out from underneath us. Okay. Windshield wiper your knees left and right again. We're going to come into a more full twist. So put your feet down, scoot your hips right, bring your knees up, drop them left. Deep inhale, soft exhale. Inhale and bring those legs back up. Scoot your hips the other way, knees up, and drop them to the side. Deep breath in, deep breath out. All right, let's go ahead and bring those knees back up. Reverse your pigeon or thigh over thigh. So right foot on left thigh and draw it in, or cross one thigh over the right thigh over the left thigh and draw it in. So you choose which stretch you're in the mood for. Finding the breath. Enjoy, relax. Okay. And then relax that and go ahead and switch sides. So whatever you were doing, switch. Either thigh over thigh or foot on thigh. Breathing. Anterior tilt. If you're in reverse pigeon, anterior tilt the pelvis. Just a bit. Wide sit bones. All right, let's go ahead and relax. Stretch your legs out on the floor. Breathe deeply. Pause here for a moment. We have one more pose to go. Just let your body rest for a moment. We're going to do leg up the wall pose. So either you can do the pose traditionally. You can have a blanket. There's lots of ways to do leg up the wall pose. If you want to do it the very traditional way, you can fold a couple of blankets, long fold, so that you have a little bit of a higher perch, and then take your blocks in front of the wall. This is if you have a wall. If you want to do a different variation, you can put your legs up, your calves up on a couch or on a chair for leg up the wall pose. If you're going to use a wall, you can have the blocks separate so that your body can kind of fit through between the two blocks and a stack of blankets. And from here, let me move them over as far as I can so you can see. I'm going to sit on the wall and then take my shoulder down and swing my legs up. So my body my pelvis falls down, my sit bones fall down into that little gap between the blocks. And then my legs are up the wall. Okay, you can do it any way you want. You can be flat on the ground. You can have a block underneath, just one blanket under your pelvis. Sometimes I like to put a blanket under my head. Just see what feels good. And of course, let's try to be easy in this, but if you want to have your legs straight up, you can do that. You can butterfly, Supta Baddha Konasana, the soles of the feet together, knees out. You can also, if you have the room, I don't have the room with one leg, to stretch your legs wide apart from each other, where you're creating a V with your legs. So however you like to be in the posture, whether your legs are on a chair, a couch, or a wall, find your way and then just rest. One of the beauties of this posture is that it weights the femur bones into the pelvis really well. So after some forward folding, this is a good thing to do to kind of return to that neutral pelvis. It's also great for your lymphatics, for your blood flow. Everything drains back toward the heart a little bit better with gravity helping you. Notice if your feet get light and cold. If you've ever been on your feet for long periods of time, feel like you have some swelling in your legs, this is a great pose to do to help you. Deep, full breaths while you're here. Now for Shavasana, you can be right here. You don't have to move. Also, at any point, if you'd rather lie down on the floor, you can come out of this pose and do so. So see what feels good for your body. As you find that deep state of grace that Shavasana is, see what it feels like to have your bones drop, to feel that sense of deep surrender. Gravity is a blanket over you, like a weighted blanket. Rest your heart, rest your spine. Let your eyes be closed and soft. Your jaw, your tongue all relaxed. Let's begin to deepen our breathing again. Deep inhale, long exhale. Start to invite some movement into the body. Stretch and move, however feels best. Maybe you like a full body squeeze and stretch. Maybe you like something softer. And eventually find your way onto your side. Roll over. As you're ready, use your arms, lifting yourself upright. Come to a comfortable seat. All right, let's just have a moment to offer our prayers, our intentions outward. Namaste. Thank you, everybody.